This is CXO Secrets, the podcast that takes you inside the minds of business and technology leaders and reveals the strategies behind their success. Coming up in today's show.
When I do things, I never consider failure, and I rarely have a plan B. Maybe it's my experience from a very strong production incentive, retail and things like that. But so far, I've always been able to manage the unexpected. And that's also why I'm pushing the teams all the time to build for the unknown. That doesn't mean I never failed. I failed a lot, but I was always able to recover. And so maybe I'm naive or insane, but I'm really not scared of taking a calculated risk.
CXO Secrets is powered by EDS, going beyond connections. Find out about upcoming C-level events, experiences and insights at edsxevents.com. Antoine Jacoutot, CTO at Believe. Thank you for joining us on CXO Secrets.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Where are you joining us from today? And tell me, what's your work week at Believe look like so far?
I'm joining from Paris, France, and my work week. So many things. I believe we never rest. Technology is a very moving, fast target. So I'm basically trying to stay afloat, I would say.
Yes, technology is a fast-moving target, particularly in the creative industries. And really, that's what I'd like to chat to you about today, Antoine, about the role that technology plays in the inner workings of the music industry, which is very much where Believe operates, and how that's changing at the moment. I want to talk to you about your role there as CTO and about how you've tackled some of the transformation challenges that you've been thrown, and also love to learn a bit about your background and some of the leadership strategies that you take into the workplace. Does that all sound all right for you?
That sounds great. Yep.
Perfect. Right. First of all, bit of context. Let's talk about Believe, and particularly for those of us from outside the music industry. Tell me where it fits and what it does and for whom.
Sure. So Believe is one global artist development company. That's how we describe ourselves. So we're a music tech company. We operate in more than 50 countries with local presence. It's about a bit more than 2,000 employees today, wow. And we're working with a bit more than 100 of digital partners worldwide. And you can see Believe, I would say the first mission of Believe is to create audience for the artists and labels that we're representing. So it's to basically make the artists connect with their audience. So we are a music distribution platform. So we're distributing all over the world to what we call DSP, which are digital streaming partners. We also
so they are the household names who I know you probably don't want to mention them, but they are the platforms through which I might listen to some music on my way into work, or when my children are doing their homework at home, they'll on their smart speaker say play such and such by such and such artist on Apple Music or Spotify or whatever. Okay, got you.
Yeah, you're probably using all of them on a daily basis, whether you're streaming audio or video or etc. So that's where we're distributing to. We are also aggregating and distributing royalties for our artists and labels, again, across the world with different currency, different contracting, etc., etc. And last but not least, so those are what we call our core product. And we also have innovation product and marketing product where we help artists grow their audience on the streaming platforms, basically. So what does it mean at the end of the day is that you are increasing the amount of streams that you have when you are using Believe services.
Okay, so on the one side of your business, you've got the artists themselves, those creatives with the products that you hope that people that audiences will wish to listen to, you distribute those to the digital streaming platforms that we mentioned a moment ago, but also you support the artists through finding an audience so that those artists are being listened to on those digital streaming platforms, as well as the other stuff, collecting royalties and so on. Tell me about the role that technology plays in that. And, I wonder, when you're dealing with lots and lots of data points, i.e. audiences, who they're listening to, when they're listening to, how they're listening, and so on, what kind of data are you using to help your artists grow their audience reach?
So to give you maybe a bit of context, we are, through Believe, generating more than 800 billions of stream. That was the number of 2024. It increased since, but I don't have the most recent number. So technology is a cornerstone of the business at Believe. Believe was created a bit more than 20 years ago around a technological core, which was the music distribution business. And at the time, the company basically made the bet that listening to music in the future would be digital and not using physical asset like it was the case at the time. Yep. And obviously, the company was right. Business was growing, and we diversified the offering. Obviously, if I go back about 8 years ago, the company was in a high scaling mode, but using technology and architecture that started to age, I would say it like that. And one of the main basically challenge that we faced a few years ago was how can we keep scaling and how can we keep serving the business with what we have built 15 years ago, pretty much. Yep. That's pretty much where we were about 5 years ago. So we started a huge transformation. And to come back to your question, technology, I believe, is really a multiverse in the sense that we have the core product that we built and designed. We have the innovation product and marketing product that we started to build 6-7 years ago. And we also have a whole bunch of different product and offering with different vertical, depending on the artist that we want to represent, that were acquired through acquisitions, basically.
Right.
So we have a very, very diverse ecosystem to make all the things work. And the main challenge that we have today is how do we transform what we have so that we can, use more modern technology, scale properly, etc. And how can we be more efficient by integrating all these pieces of technology that we have scattered around the group. So as far as data goes, since that's what you mentioned, we have one of the best music data in the industry because we've been operating for a long time. We're partnering with a lot of GSPs with which we are getting data from. And this is basically one of the core of the value creation that we're building through our product. It's thanks to all the data that we have. And this is also how we are extending the audience for our artists, like I mentioned at the beginning.
Right. Okay. So the thing I want to hook onto next is the complexity there. You mentioned that you've been around for a long time, hyper growth in the mid to late 2010s, and of course the explosion in streaming consumption. The platforms that we've mentioned as well, all of the mergers and acquisitions as well. So your role then as CTO, Antoine, boy, you are in the thick of this. Tell me about your role right now, and maybe what you came in to Believe to do to try and make sense and to try and move forward Believe and its tech stack and ultimately its proposition.
Yep. The reason I was brought in to Believe, my first mission, to be very pragmatic, was to start a massive migration to the cloud.
Right.
Historically, Believe, and I'm talking Believe itself without the subsidiaries, was 80% workload on data centers, 15% on different cloud providers here and there, and 5% in other SaaS offering tool for hosting. So the main thing that we decided is that we need to bring coherency and efficiency in what we have today. We need to get away from the old architecture patterns that we had put in place, which were not wrong, but they were just old, and we were reaching a situation where we couldn't improve what we had, and we had basically to rebuild some of the asset that we had. So the main milestone was really, okay, let's move everything to the cloud. Let's modernize a little bit while we're moving. We decided not to transform everything, obviously, because we didn't want to move while transforming everything. But obviously, we require a few adjustments and modernization to be able to bring the asset that we had on premises to the cloud, to be properly containerized, properly orchestrated, properly observable, etc., etc. So that was the main mission, and it's the one that we delivered in December 2025. So pretty much a month ago.
Congratulations!
Thank you. I would say it's just the first iteration of a huge journey. We have a target, we have a destination. But the path is somewhat constantly changing because we also have to adapt to a fast-changing industry. But at least now we have set the base right to be able to build what we need to build in the future, and to also we're in a situation we can actually start looking into technically integrating some of the acquisition that we did in the past.
Right. Yeah, so unifying that workforce experience as well. So core systems is one thing, migrating them onto the cloud. And I understand you've gone for a single cloud provider, GCP. Maybe we'll come to that later on. But also particularly through all the acquisitions and all the little bits that have kind of been added onto the side of Believe over the years, making sure that everyone's got that same, well, I guess, digital identity, but also a sense of identity through their experience of using the tools, using the Believe systems. That I think that's important and often underestimated.
No, that's totally true, and we're also changing paradigm in the way that we address our users. We're not really historically we're not really a client-facing company because we're more B2B, because we're interfacing usually with label and producers. Only a few artists directly interact with our digital product, but we still have to be able to offer a proper user experience. So this is also something that we're working on. We're completely redesigning the core of the products so that they're easier to use, they're faster, they're more accessible, etc. Because we think it's also an important part to because people are working with our tool every day, and it's also part of the retention and part of the value offering. We also have a vertical from one of our business line that is called TuneCore, that is based originally in the US, and that is more focused to B2C customers. So basically, with TuneCore, we're targeting independent artists that want to manage their career on their own. And with this, it's a complete switch to a more B2C model, where the artists have full control over what they can do on the interface, and they directly interact with the digital product without any human interaction or anything like that. So it's a completely, I would say, do-it-yourself experience that TuneCore has built.
But an opportunity really to scale the business. Obviously, there's only so many producers, there's only so many B2B partners, but as soon as you start looking at B2C, I'm guessing, again, I'm saying this from outside the industry, but it strikes me as though there's an opportunity and an almost infinite number of artists who are trying to get themselves heard, trying to connect with an audience, and a platform that will enable them to do that would be a great proposition for them if it were available.
It's not only a great proposition, but it really enriches our data as well, because the biggest volume that we have, the better to understand the industry, to understand the artist, to understand the different region that we operate on, because you will not grow audience for an artist in certain region in certain part of the world in the same way that you would do it in others. So we're gaining a lot of intelligence as well by having all this volume aggregated into our data warehouse.
All about the data, and you mentioned the number of streams, 800 billion there in 2024. Goodness knows how much that would have grown in 2025. Big numbers you're talking about there. Let's take a step back for a moment, though, Antoine, because I'm curious about your journey up to Believe. I understand that you didn't come from the music industry at all.
No, that's correct, and that's one of the beauty of my my occupation. Basically, is that technology allows you to evolve in many different areas.
Oh yeah.
I've been working in retail for a few years. I've been working in oil and gas. I've been working in astronomy. I've been working in all kind of different scopes, and it's fantastic because you're meeting with people from completely different backgrounds, with different culture as well, with ways of working that are completely different. But you have, your lifeline, which is technology. And whether you're, fixing things for astronomers or fixing things for artists and label in the music industry, the outcome aren't the same. The functional scope is not the same. But the underlying technology is usually similar, which allows you to basically, work in many different scope, and that's really what I like. And as you mentioned, no, I'm not coming from the music industry. I'm certainly not an expert. I'm getting better, but I'm not an expert in the music industry just yet. But I think that's for me the main interest of working in technology nowadays.
Yeah, like you say, technology, having a technology career, it's that fantastic vehicle that can take you in many different directions, lots of interesting, and boy, it sounds like you've worked in some really fascinating industries as well. How technical are you able to be now? Because I know you have been very technical in the past. As your role as CTO at Believe now, is that a hands-on techie role? Are you able to flex those muscles to keep those muscles fit in that role?
And not really, but I have a system, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I've always been very hands-on. I love individual contribution, which I did for many years. And no, it's true that I believe I don't have the opportunity anymore to be a hands-on CTO. That said, I work quite a lot in the open source ecosystem. So those are completely different technology that what we're using on a daily basis at Believe. But I've been an OpenBSD developer for about 20 years now. OpenBSD is a free operating system based on Unix, and I would say that's what keeps me honest with myself and also towards the team. I'm trying not to be completely disconnected from reality, and also I just love doing it. So
yeah. I guess it's about lighting the different passions in different areas, and it sounds as though from a leadership point of view and a strategy point of view at Believe, there's lots of pieces that you're putting together, and a very tangible transformation program that you're able to execute on there. But of course, it is all with technology. So having another opportunity, like you do with OpenBSD, to sate the other part of your curiosity, your hunger, your thirst, is also really important. I totally on board with that. Back to that transformation program, though, at Believe, what have been the biggest challenges then in the modernisation? And you've mentioned quite a few different potential challenges there around the fact that the stack had been around for quite a long time. Believe was quite a very early mover by the sounds of it in this industry. A lot of growth, hyper growth. Are the choices that you're able to make when you're in the middle of hypergrowth always the best ones for the future? Well, sometimes you're responding to the current state. And also lots of those mergers and acquisitions as well. Just talk to me about or maybe some of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome in order to achieve that milestone that you did in December last year.
Most challenges, and I'm pretty sure you know that, but most challenges in technology when you're talking about transformation aren't technical challenges. That doesn't mean that we don't have complex things to execute, but the main challenge that we have was to basically shift the mindset, shift the ways of working and the organization that was present at the time to increase collaboration, increase cross expertise between the different teams, because the problem we're trying to solve are complex.
Yeah.
And you cannot solve problem with only one kind of profile, whether you're software development expert or you're an infrastructure master or whatever. You cannot resolve everything with only your own expertise, and that's what we've been working on at Believe for the past 3 years, is to try and mix the expertise as much as we can. For me, that's the main challenge, and it is still an ongoing challenge because it's a never-ending journey, I would say, since we have also to adapt to the industry, the priorities, the business,
yes,
etc. But for me, that's the main challenge. The second one, and we're going a bit deeper into the stacks, is the weight and the price of our technical debt. And that's where it becomes tricky, because we have a lot of duplication in the group, of course, because we did acquisition of product that are more or less doing the same as some of our product, but they're written in different languages. They don't implement exactly the same set of features, and instinctively on paper you say, okay, we have those 3 products who are doing the same. It would absolutely make sense to merge them into one. But when you start deep diving, it's pretty hard to find a proper decision that will bring a real ROI, because the investment that you will need to do to merge those into one may be too high. And that's the complexity as well, is to find a proper path to efficiency, basically.
And that's a conversation we've been having a number of times here, that balancing out, particularly when you are responding to strategic direction. We need to modernize, we need to throw some AI in here. We need to create a platform for the future, of course, but then also in a role like yours or a CIO or a CISO, what do you do about the technical debt? Where do I allocate my resource? And it's very easy to say, well, actually, the most tangible output is on the shiny new stuff. But actually, it's that tech debt, it's those applications that could be consolidated, where it would make sense. It would make sense on paper to consolidate those. But actually, the amount of time, the amount of effort, the amount of money that it would take to do that, it's a difficult calculation, I guess, is what you're getting at.
Yeah, it's difficult and it's tricky, because it's tricky to compute the real value that you'll get out of merging technologies, because usually the direct ROI isn't that obvious, but you need to look at the indirect one as well, because lowering the amount of entropy that you have in your technological landscape has beneficial effect. Basically, you're more efficient. You can deliver quicker, with more quality, etc. Yeah, the incidents are much easier to manage, etc. So at the end of the day, there are also indirect benefits that you need to look at, but those are very hard to actually compute. And that's why it's so tricky.
Yes, if you can't measure it, how can you fund it? That kind of perennial question there, if you can't quantify it. You mentioned earlier on about the changes in the industry. I'm going to mention AI. It's not something we've spoken about too much before, but we've seen Gen AI making an impact across creative industries, certainly for the creators, the artists on that side of your work. I wonder what Gen AI looks like for you and what you do, Antoine, either responding to it or using it yourself in your tooling and, maybe modernizing some of those applications, understanding some of that legacy code.
Yeah, like any other tech company, it's changing everything. I mean, even if you look at the software development work, in 2 years it will be completely different. So I believe we have a few streams of AI and Gen AI. The first one is the most obvious one, and it's pretty much what everybody is looking into right now, is everything related to digital employee experience. How do we augment our collaborators? And so that's we are working on a few things to implement it at group level for everybody at Believe. We're working also with GCP, as you mentioned, into implementing agentic AI where it makes sense to build strong automations, strong efficiency, etc., etc. And by the way, I mentioned that we just finished the migration to GCP end of December, but we're also in the middle of migration to Google Workspace, so that we can benefit from all the AI ecosystem of Google. Where we are a bit struggling right now is how can we be more efficient in the software delivery, the SDLC. All of our engineers are using a Copilot-like assistant, but there is a real challenge today, is how can we make sure that our current software developer can keep doing their job in 2 or 3 years with AI coming into the mix, because the work itself will evolve. And it's evolving very fast. So it's hard. It's hard to basically build the job that you will have tomorrow. So this is the first stream where we're asking lots of questions. We're also, I guess, like everyone else, doing a lot of proofs of concept to find where can we create the most value out of using this tooling. And this is tricky because, again, on paper, there's some stuff that look like pretty obvious to do. And when you start doing them, you basically see that there isn't that much value to look for. And the last, and maybe the most interesting, is what does it mean to the music industry? As I mentioned, I'm a technologist, so I'm not an expert in the music industry, but there are 2 things that we need to consider. The first one is how do we protect our artists? How do we protect copyright, etc.? And so how can we have an AI that is responsible around these topics? And the second one is, once again, how do we add value through AI? So it's like value creation AI, bringing innovation into the artist landscape, empowering creativity, accelerating music discovery for the audience as well, creating deeper fan engagement, etc., etc. There is no miracle recipe. That's a thing that we are working on with our artists and label, that we're working on internally. So we're certainly not saying no to AI in the music industry. We're just looking about what is doable, not doable, but we are very, very careful because we want to protect our artists and labels.
Yeah. And it sounds to me as though you've got a very holistic, very wide-ranging strategy around AI. You mentioned all the different areas in which you're looking at it. And, you mentioned about the proofs of concept and about finding value. And for all of the headline stats that analysts will come out with saying, 95% of AI pilots don't deliver any value and so on. For all of that, that's how we learn. We only know if something's going to work from us by going for a pilot, by testing it. And if it doesn't work, then brilliant. We'll move on. We'll find somewhere else where it can find some value. So I'm pleased that you are doing that as well. Antoine, this has been absolutely fascinating hearing about a part of the music industry, which is consumers and not musicians, we are otherwise ignorant of. Thank you. Good luck with your continued journey, as you put it, with the transformation there, and indeed keeping up with whatever generative AI throws us next. There are some questions that we ask all of our guests here before we let them go. Sure. Antoine, the show is called CXO Secrets, so I have to ask you, what is your secret? If you were to put your modesty to one side for a moment, what is the key attribute that you believe, or what someone else would say, has enabled you to do what you do today?
Can I have two secrets?
Oh, go on then.
When I do things, I never consider failure, and I rarely have a plan B.
Ooh.
Maybe it's my experience from a very strong production incentive, retail and things like that. But I've always been able to manage the unexpected, and that's also why I'm pushing the teams all the time to build for the unknown. That doesn't mean I never failed. I failed a lot, but I was always able to recover, and I basically, so maybe I'm naive or insane, but I'm really not scared of taking a calculated risk. So I would say that's my first secret. And the second one, which is something that you read about everywhere. So even if it's stating the obvious, is building the right team. Basically, people surrounding me are much better than I am in everything that they do on a daily basis. Again, building teams are a continuous journey, but I'm trying to enforce people to be leaders and not followers. And that's for me, that's the end game when you have complex problems to solve.
We do a Pass the Question, where guests on the show have an opportunity to put a question to a future guest, whoever they may be. What question would you like me to put to a guest on a future episode of the show?
So you send me an AI question, so I will raise you another AI question. That's the theme of these few years. So everyone is chasing a Gen AI dividend right now. Can you name one specific AI initiatives that you've recently killed because it was just an innovation theater rather than real value, even if it looked great on the slide?
Oh, a Gen AI dividend. I like that phrase. That's a great question. I look forward to asking it on a future episode. But for now, Antoine, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights from Believe. Thank you for joining us on CXO Secrets.
Thank you, David.